Now, our keynote speaker next up is Serena Thomas from MYOB Enterprise. Now, Serena's got over 10 years experience in leadership, operational, management roles in the technology industry. She likes to drive strategic change and initiatives relating to organizational restructures, digital transformations, as you might call them as well. So it gives me the greatest pleasure to introduce to you and welcome in Serena Thomas.
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction. I will just pull some slides up. Okay. Look, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. I have been at MYOB for 10 years working in the enterprise division. And as the head of operations, I recently oversaw a really large scale transformation of our back office systems, the cornerstone of which was moving to MYOB Advanced. Kilimanjaro Consulting was our valued implementation partner on this project, and I'm really pleased that I can talk to you about this project today and bring some of the learnings that we had from the project to you. So first, I'll just talk you through a little bit of context. It's important to understand the enterprise division and where it came from. Enterprise was born of acquisitions, and as you can see from the slide, we have done a number of acquisitions over the years. So Comac in 2006, PayGlobal in 2014, and Greentree in 2016. Now, each of these acquisitions came with their own systems, some of which we integrated, some of which we migrated the data into our own systems, and some of which were left in what I call an orphan state, so as standalone systems. Another really big milestone for us was in 2015, where we released our cloud ERP to market, MYOB Advanced. And with this came a lot of new things for us. So new billing models, new support models, new revenue models, different types of reporting, given that it was a subscription-based product. Again, there were some additional tools that came into play to manage this new product. And some were integrated with our existing ecosystem and some were not. And so by 2018, this is what the internal ecosystem looked like for MYOB Enterprise. It was highly fragmented and we were using over 30 different systems and tools to run the business. We were experiencing really common growing pains that a lot of businesses suffer when they go through so much growth. We had a large number of manual processes. We were reliant on people to rekey information from one system to another. We had aging systems that were decreasing in performance and reliability. We had disconnected data flows because we didn't have a lot of these systems integrated. And we had time-consuming and error-prone reporting because we didn't have a centralized data source and we needed to extract information from multiple systems to pull reports together. So just to bring that to life for you, the process for us in 2018 to track our daily sales numbers involved pulling several data extracts that were only available overnight after the ETL process had run. We then had to merge those data sources together in Excel, and then we had to take the numbers and enter them manually into scorecards for our sales teams and our partners to access. So everything that we saw was always 24 hours behind, and it was a huge amount of effort to get those final numbers out of the system. So what was the impact for us? We had a lack of timely information to drive performance and the productivity of the business. We were stifling our growth because our aging systems just weren't able to keep up with the growth of our customer base and a lot of the new models that we wanted to introduce. And we had a lot of cost overheads and complexity because we had so many different processes and systems to maintain. In early 2019, MYOB launched the connected business concept out to market. And this was based on some feedback from our customers and also some research that we'd done in the broader marketplace. And what we found were businesses with systems that were really fragmented and it was making their business operations really complicated. We found businesses suffering with duplicate data entry, incorrect information, a lack of information sharing across departments, multiple software products to learn and maintain. And this all sounded remarkably familiar to us. And the irony was not lost on us at all. Everything that we could see and everything our customers were telling us that was needed to run a connected business that was efficient and effective and scalable was also everything we needed for ourselves. And so it was at this point that we absolutely realized that MYOB Enterprise needed to become a connected business in their own right, where our people, our systems, partners, customers were all connected and the right people could get the right information at the right time. And so against all of this backdrop, Project Evo was born. And so what was Project Evo? It was a multi-year transformation of our business systems and tools to turn MYOB Enterprise into the connected business. So as I mentioned up front, the cornerstone of this transformation was the implementation of MYOB Advanced into our business. And we are using many, many parts of this product. So we're using it for pipeline management, CRM, billing, provisioning, payments, support ticketing, quote and order generation, financial management. We're using many, many parts of this system. Some of the objectives there, we needed to create a unified data source. And this project brought all of our ERP customer records into the one system for the first time since we'd purchased Greentree. So that was a huge benefit for us. We needed to automate manual processes, including a lot of the manual reporting that we were doing, order processing, commission processing, because it was very onerous. And we wanted to improve the experience for our staff, but also for our partners who use our systems on a day-to-day basis, and then ultimately our customers. We were really fortunate to partner with Kilimanjaro for the implementation, and we went live with phase 1 of the project in Q1 2020, and phase 2 went live in September last year. So some of the key deliverables of the project, we migrated all of our data and workflows from our aging Siebel CRM and our Greentree ERP to MYOB Advanced, and this created that unified view and experience for MYOB teams and our partners. We published all of the data from our MYOB Advanced implementation to the MYOB data platform. And so for the first time, all of this data from MYOB Enterprise was visible and accessible to the broader business. It was easy for managers and leaders to tap into, and we were able to use a BI tool over the top of that, so Tableau, to get better business insights and to help us drive better decision making. We also automated a lot of the in-product reporting so that our frontline teams had operational visibility and they were engaging in really proactive behaviours rather than waiting overnight for all of this information to come through. And so what were some of the benefits for us? What we saw was more than 80% reduction in processing time, handling time on some of our targeted workflows. And so these included things like our commission processing, upsells, the entry of opportunities into the system and billing. We now have the ability to enter an opportunity in under 60 seconds and take it through to a quote in less than 3 minutes. So that's really fantastic, that kind of speed in our business. And not only this, but we enabled external parties, our partners in particular, to be able to self-serve. And so they can actually do that process for themselves rather than having to wait for an MYOB team member to be available to do that for them. We estimate that we're saving around 1,000 hours per annum through the automation of a lot of the reporting. And so that was both from the reporting that we built inside MYOB Advanced and also the reporting that we've enabled through publishing all of our data through to the platform and having the BI tool over the top. We are saving on licensing because we've reduced the number of systems, and there's also less overhead on the maintenance of these systems as well, so the people costs associated with that. We've also saved around $600,000 a year on headcount demand. And so what this has meant for us is that we've been able to hold the size of our teams the same whilst we've still continued to grow the business. So I really think that this one demonstrates the productivity gains that we've been able to get from the solution and the scalability that it's really brought for us. It's not just about the numbers. What's also important is how our users actually feel about the system and the benefits that they can see on a day-to-day basis. So I'll just read a couple of these to you. Live sales numbers can now be viewed in real time. We were previously flying blind to some extent on whether the official business reports reflected our position on sales that have come through the door. As partner managers, we get much stronger visibility on the pipeline as it relates to opportunities closing this month. We now have improved data capture to drive much improved reporting for business decisions relating to support delivery and focused product areas. So in general, we had really positive feedback from all of the users as we went live. They've been able to see the difference on a day-to-day basis, and that's been very important to us, that they've had a great experience. And so up until this point in the presentation, you might think it was flawless, no challenges, no issues whatsoever. And I really wish that that were true. But with a project that runs for this long and did have this level of complexity, of course, there were a lot of challenges that we had to overcome. And so what I'd like to do for the remainder of my time is talk you through some of the key learnings that I took from this project, in the hopes that maybe it helps you with some of your upcoming projects. So number one is around data cleaning and the importance of this for a successful data migration. One of the learnings that we had was that whatever time you allocate in your project plan, basically double it, because the data extraction, the cleaning and the migration, it's incredibly time consuming. And what happened for us is that we actually needed to refactor our timeline by a few months because we ended up having issues getting the information out of our old systems. And then we realized the sheer volume of cleaning that actually had to be done to make sure that we were confident in what we were importing into the new system. I have been on projects before where, for the sake of the timeline, there's been the temptation to cut corners and say, well, we'll just migrate it in and then clean it later. My advice would be don't. I really think it's important that you can trust what you're seeing in the system from day one. It means that you can start to realize those benefits of the new system from day one, but also that your users have confidence in it, and that they will adopt the new system. So the second one there is around dependencies. And again, this was a big learning for us. So a connected business of any sort is likely to involve some integrations with other systems. And with this can bring dependencies on other parties or other teams to help you deliver on that. So in our case, we had an integration with Salesforce to remove some of our manual processes. And one of our other major integrations was with the MYOB data platform for that data visibility. And so it is really critical to think about what integrations are going to be required in your project to ensure that you have the right data flowing across your business and that information sharing is happening. But my learning is that you need to engage early with all of these parties and ensure that they're kept warm until you need them to take part in the project. And so I engaged early with a lot of these teams and explained the project to them and the role that we needed them to play. But then I left them until we needed them. And in some cases, that meant leaving them for 6 months before I came back to ask for some help with the project. And within that time, what happened was that sometimes people had left, they'd moved roles, and I then had to go through a process of finding the right people or the right team members all over again and do the briefing all over again on what the project was. The other thing that happened was that often in that window of time, priorities had changed. They'd moved on. And I didn't necessarily have the capacity from them to assist with the project. And so we had to renegotiate all over again. And so I think identifying these parties up front, engaging them early, but then keeping them as part of the project, keeping them really engaged is important, because these sorts of dependencies, when you get there, if you can't get your hands on these people, it really does disrupt your timeline. The number 3 and 4 are really about change management. Always one of the most difficult parts of any of these kind of transformation projects. Something that worked really well for us was using advocates from across the business to help us with the change management activities. We had various workstream owners or change agents from across the various functions of the business, and they helped in all aspects of the project. So the requirements gathering, UAT, they helped with training, and they helped with ongoing change management inside their functional areas. We found that really effective. Now, our consultants did an amazing job of the training, but it means a lot more when you hear it from someone within your own team, someone who knows your role, knows your daily tasks, the pain points that you have, because they have lived them too. I'm really grateful to have had these advocates involved in the project. I really don't think it would have been as much of a success without them. And they did engage in the project and do this on top of their BAU role. So huge thanks to them for their involvement. And the last one there is around skill sets and capabilities. Because transforming just the software and the systems really doesn't get you all the way. You really need to think about having the right skill sets and capabilities in the business to make sure that you can harness the power of what you're implementing and get the best from the investment. So with this project, we've very much moved from collating information to understanding information and now developing insights from that information. And so this analytics and insights capability is still growing at MYOB. I wouldn't say we're there yet, but this project has really opened up that as an opportunity for us. But what that has meant is that there's been a change in the capabilities that we need in the business. So it's not any longer about just plugging numbers into a spreadsheet template. We really need to have people who can do analysis and get insights from the information. So we have been developing some people in the business, and I'm really pleased that some of our operations administrators have moved into analyst roles as a result of this. But I would encourage anyone who's going through this kind of transformation to have a think up front about the skill sets you're going to need in the business by the time you go live, and have a look at the staff that you have in your business and present it as an opportunity to them, because I certainly know that we had people in our business who are really, really keen to upskill. And it meant that when we got there and when we went live, we already had some of the skill sets to really get the best out of the system. And so that's all I have time for today, but I'd like to extend my thanks again to Ronnie and the team at Kilimanjaro for inviting me to talk. I hope it's been interesting to hear about our experience and some of our learnings. And I'd like to just end on a very personal thanks to our consultants on the project, Jason and Adrian, who went above and beyond every step of the way. They were an absolute pleasure to work with, and a lot of the success is down to them. So thank you very much to you both. And back to you, Grant.
Well, thanks very much, Serena. That was just wonderful. And so, as a result of looking at that, Serena, a few things come to mind. You know, was there a time in the project over those 2 years where you thought, you know what, we're just going to have to, you know, bail out?
I don't think so. But when we first started the project, I'll be honest, my biggest concern was that maybe MYOB Advanced couldn't do what we needed it to do, because at that point in time, this was going to be probably the most complex implementation that we'd ever done for MYOB Advanced. And so I thought, well, sooner or later, we're going to hit a wall and we just won't be able to get what we need. And I was wrong. MYOB Advanced did everything we wanted and more. But I think that's also down to the consultants that we had working on it, because whenever we did hit something that wasn't ideal, Jason and Adrian were always able to find a way around it, a way to use the system and the functionality that was in the system to give us what we needed. And so I feel like we were always able to push through, but I do think that that's thanks to the product and to the people who were doing the implementation.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you know, it's always a bit dramatic to say bail out, but I know what it's like sometimes on these. We all know what it's like on software. Sometimes we think, crikey, what river have we got ourselves down, you know, but you've got to get out. The other thing that, you know, the project's called Project Evo, and what does happen in these solutions is that you discover, this is you, the client or the sponsor, discover by actually going through the process more possibilities that you hadn't known or even seen in the environment, the system, even in the consultant's abilities, until you're midway in the process and new things arrive and present as opportunities. Did that happen?
Yeah, it did, absolutely. And we structured the project as a hybrid model. So it was waterfall in a sense that we had a very structured approach to the different phases of the project. But then within the delivery phases, we delivered the pieces in kind of epics. And so, and each epic was devoted to a different functional area of the business. And so then what we did with those different functions was we said, well, you've got a 6-week epic. And so you need to learn about what's available and then help prioritize, but it's got to fit into that 6 weeks. So within that, it was very agile. And what we saw from the different functional areas was that as they were going through these kind of 6-week cycles, they get halfway through and they go, oh, now I've seen that and I love that and I want that. But then the conversation was about, okay, well, you have to trade off something else. And so the way that we structured it actually worked really well. It did allow for some flexibility as we went through and we learned a bit more, but we were still able to keep to the time frame by doing the 1 in, 1 out kind of process with them.
Yeah, no, always the thing, isn't it? We don't know it until we see it, and when we see it, we've got new ideas of what we can do. But you've got a main plan. The other thing, if I could just ask one more, you know, you were the project sponsor, but you talked about the advocates and the really important little agents that work for you. We would call them sub-sponsors, I suppose, without them knowing that so much. But, you know, the importance, I think, of having at least some really good people that are on your, can see the vision and have come with you and take others with them, because you can't speak to everyone in the organization and give them the vision or take them on the journey. So how important, we know they're important, but I guess you're a bigger company than probably most of the companies that we would know. That would have been, I imagine, one of the most important features, and you did mention that.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's about credibility as well. You know, it's all very well for me to stand up in front of these teams, or for Kilimanjaro to stand up and say, look at this amazing implementation of Advance. But of course, we're going to say that. There's a lot of credibility when it comes from someone who works alongside you every day in the same role. Because you really feel like they understand what you need. And when they say it's good, there's a bit more trust, I think, when it's one of your own. They were incredibly important. We had probably over 100 people in the organisation who worked on this project at some point. And so you're right, we simply, in the project team, we couldn't get to everyone. And so those advocates were very important to us to spread the word and make sure that the change management was happening.
Yeah. Once again, the human beings, you've got to take them with us. And if they're not coming with us, we'll soon find the problems. Yes. That's right. Well, that's excellent. Okay. Well, once again, thanks very much, Serena. That's terrific. Really appreciated your presentation today. Sure our audience did as well. And yes, go well. And we'll see you again sometime.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.